Welcome back to another episode of Connie Celica, my 1977 Toyota Celica. Today, I'm going to be rubbing this on things. That's right, everyone. I am here by myself in the shop because of this whole pandemic situation. So this episode may look a little different than you're used to. It's just me figuring things out on my own here. And as far as rubbing things with compound, Flitz is a metal polisher, and I may not actually use this, but we have some other chrome and metal polishers around here. And actually, I think I said last episode you might not see Connie for a while, but we started thinking about, well, without having access to our friends down in Baltimore, Maryland, the Street Bandito bros, who are going to paint this car for me, I figured, well, let's do some other stuff that needs to get done anyway, including polishing all the chrome trim on this car. And when I started to take an inventory of all the chrome trim I have here, there's a lot of it. There's stuff like this, which is windshield trim. You can see on the back side of it, there's actually some butyl that's still left in there, so I'll have to clean all that butyl off before I polish it. And I've also got side view mirrors, which are chrome, I think. It's either a chrome paint or an actual chrome finish on it. I'll have to be very careful with it, although I bought a set of spare mirrors because I broke the glass on this one. I didn't break it actually, it just fell off, but I bought a spare set in case I couldn't find glass, although I've since done some research and you can actually make your own mirrors. So I may end up doing that in a future episode of Dave finding things to do around the shop while we're all in lockdown, so maybe that's something you see soon.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Other trim items like this rear center panel from the flat light conversion that you would have seen earlier this season. I'm going to try polishing the chrome along the edges here. The middle portion will be painted black, but I'm going to do a little filling of holes here as well. So lots of little things to do. And as far as how to polish the chrome on this car goes, I am no expert. I've done some research on YouTube. Believe it or not, you can learn things on YouTube. And from what I gathered, the best results I saw from the various polishing chrome videos that I watched, I liked one that used fine steel wool. So I bought a couple of grades of steel wool from Home Depot. And I'm just going to use the steel wool with these polishing compounds and see what kind of results we get. It looked like it worked really well for like the motorcycle dudes who are polishing chrome bits on their bikes and stuff. So I'm going to try that approach first. You're just going to be along for the ride here, guys, learning with me as I try to figure out how to polish all this chrome. As you can see, I've got a pile of chrome over here ready to go, and I'm just going to work over on this bench, which it's kind of like my little Celica shrine over here. Got my OK monitor, which I've saved because who doesn't want a monitor that lets you know everything's okay? Of course, I've got my Toyota Beaver here, which combines two of my favorite things. Got the old Celica owner's manual and the license plate that came on Connie when she came up here from Arizona. Got the old GT front grill badge, and that LT one came with the flat light conversion for the rear. Got some iridium spark plugs for Beamsy over there, and of course we've got a bunch of chrome bits laid out here. Decided I'm going to start with this rear smiley bumper that I bought out of Europe, which I'm not going to use on the car, but the chrome is in not great shape. It's got some pitting on it. I don't know if you can see, I'm too close there, but I don't know if you can see, like in this area there's like little pits, and the chrome itself has a lot of like spider cracking almost in it. It's kind of hard to explain it, but it's also not very high shine, so it's got some areas which are quite flat. So I figured this is a good piece to start off with. Since I'm not using it on the car, I can just sort of work on my technique and see how that goes. All right, guys, a quick update on how the polishing is going so far. And well, these creams or polishes, both the 3M and the Flitz, are not very aggressive, at least not aggressive enough for the kind of work that needs to be done on this rear smiley bumper. So I ended up trying some wet sanding, because that's another technique I saw people using on YouTube. And I tried 2000 grit initially. It didn't seem to do a whole lot, and eventually went down to a 320 grit and wet sanded it, and it did start to remove some of these like spider cracks in the finish of the chrome. And it also helped get rid of some of the deeper pits and sort of like rust marks that were showing through the chrome. So it seems like going to a relatively aggressive 320 wet sand was what I needed to start to really clean this up. However, it's lost some of its shine, and I went back again over it with the polish, trying to see if I could bring that shine back, and I don't know, I'm not convinced that that's necessarily going to be the case. So I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this section here is where I did all of the experimenting with the polish and the wet sanding, and there's definitely less spider cracks in it, and a lot of the little pits and stuff that are along this seam here are gone as well. But it's definitely not as shiny as this area here, which is the original chrome. So it's sort of flatter. So I'm going to try some polishing with some of our Sonax products to see if I can get it to come back to life shine wise. Otherwise, I'm a little unsure about the wet sanding approach. It's definitely aggressive enough to treat some of these blemishes and such, but I don't know if it's permanently removing or damaging the chrome to the point where I can't really get that nice shine back again. So I'll try that a bit, and then I think I'm just going to move on to doing some pieces that are actually going to go back on the car, because I'm coming to realize this is a labor-intensive process. It's going to take me all day just to try to like restore this one bumper. Man, this whole chrome deal is more work than I was expecting. So back at it here, everyone. All right, just a quick update here on polishing this side view mirror. This is actually the replacement one I bought, which has glass on it, but some interesting differences. Well, there's really only one big difference, I guess, and that is, if you look the stock on it here, on my original one, it's silver, and on this one, it's matte black. So I guess that's just like a trim difference. My car is a GT. This probably came off of a, I don't know, a non-GT maybe? I kind of like the matte black finish on there, though. Let me know what you guys prefer. And I will say that this replacement one is actually in worse shape than my original one. It's got some fairly bad like blemishes in the chrome, little like rust spots and stuff. And the chrome on the leading nose of it here is really quite thin and faded and lost a lot of its shine, and I can't seem to bring that back. But the shine in the other areas definitely came back quite nicely with the polish and the steel wool. It's looking a lot better than it did, but side by side, you can see the chrome on my original one is actually in much better shape. It's got more shine to it, and it has basically no blemishes or rust in it. Like the Arizona desert has been very kind to this car's chrome. So I think what I'm going to do is polish this one up now, and I'll look at how I can swap the glass over onto this mirror. That won't happen this episode, but I'll try to figure that out. Otherwise, like I said earlier, I'll figure out a way of getting some replacement glass for this. So this will still be a good spare to have kicking around, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna end up using this one because the chrome is so much nicer. So let's polish this one up now. at that. That is shiny. You can even see my face in there, and it's looks pretty good.
I'm going to do a terrific show today, and I'm going to help people because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Man, this thing looks like new again, if it only had glass on there. But wow, I'm super pleased with how that turned out and how easy that is. So let's hope the rest of the chrome on the car is that cooperative. Well, there we have it. Front grille chrome sections are looking really good. And I think I found a pretty good process now where I come in with this 000 steel wool and some of the compound, either the 3M or the Flitz. I don't really see a big difference between the two. And that really does a great job of knocking off any of the light surface rust or blemishes and little pits and so on in the chrome. Really does a good job of cleaning that up. And then I find coming in with this wool wheel afterwards is really a nice finishing touch. It kind of brings it up to a higher shine. So I think that 1-2 punch is working out well for me. It is labor intensive though, and man, my arms are kind of like sore and swollen. I'm a little swole here, everybody. So why don't I take a rest and patch up these holes that were left in the rear flat light center panel that Vin wasn't quite able to weld up completely. So I'm just going to patch that with a bit of JB Weld, maybe sand it flat, and then I'll come back and shine the chrome edges up. But before I do that, let's play a little show and tell with some stuff I picked up off of eBay recently. There is a lot of stuff available on eBay for first-gen Celicas, and some of it is not so great, some of it's genuine, some of it's like crazy overpriced new old stock out of Spain, and some of it is reproduction stuff out of places like Thailand. This stuff is all reproduction bits out of Thailand from a vendor called Connie 1975. He's gone through the trouble of making reproduction bits and pieces for first-gen Celicas for really like obscure stuff that you just couldn't find otherwise. So he's really doing the community a real service, and his prices I think are very fair considering how impossible it would be to find this stuff otherwise. So for example, I've got these little kits here which are for rebuilding the window regulators. So it's got all the bushings and little springs and nuts and bolts, slider pins for like where the joints are all. So very complete kit to completely rebuild those window regulator units, which are known to go bad on these cars. I guess any car that's this old would have these issues, but I know in my car the windows really were rattling around a lot in there, so this will fix that problem. It even comes with replacement door card inner handle pieces. These are like made of ABS type plastic, and I must admit one of the ones in my car is cracked in this sort of like thin area where as you're popping it out of the door card, when it's old and brittle, it just would snap, as mine did. So it's great to have replacement units for that. Also got these rubber door stoppers. I've got these door card clips. He even has a rebuild kit for the wiper arm mechanism. So these are like bushings for the wiper arm, and there's a little grommet in here that goes on the firewall where the hose passes through for the windshield washer system. So it's really well thought out. Quality looks good. All right, ladies and joims, I am going to mix up some JB Weld on this handy dandy piece of cardboard. Going with the JB Quick Set, 6 minutes to setting. And oh boy, this one's never been used before. That's exciting. Maybe, hopefully it's not as old as I am. All right, well, there you got yourself a batch of JB Weld. Yeah, I really gotta push it down in the hole there.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Nice thing about this stuff too is that once it's dried, you can sand it, you can shape it. It's you can work it kind of like, well, like you could aluminum or any other metal really. You can use it on pretty much anything. It is pretty versatile stuff. I'll let that dry. I'll sand it. I'll come back in and give it one more coat. And at that point, I think it'll be ready for paint. thus concludes a long day of polishing, as well as doing a little bit of repair here with the JB Weld like I showed you earlier. And after a second treatment of it and some wet sanding with a 320 and then a 2000 grit, it's looking really good actually. I'm pretty pleased with how that's turned out. It's still a little high in one spot there, so I could sand it down a bit more, but I may just leave it for the body shop to tune up at this point because it's pretty darn close. So also polished up the edges of this piece, but it has some really deep pits and craters in it, and there's just no way to get that out without stripping it down completely and then re-chroming it, which I'm not going to do. This isn't a concourse restoration. I'm not taking this thing to Pebble Beach or wherever. This is just a rip around in, and it's shiny enough to be cool. So pretty pleased with all the progress I made with all the polishing. It's been a learning experience, and I hope maybe you found it useful too. I really just experimented with a bunch of different techniques that I saw on YouTube and spoke to a couple of friends that have more experience in this type of thing than I do. And in the end, I think I kind of came up with a technique that worked well enough for me. And like I said, this is not, I never was aiming for perfection, but all the chrome is really looking nice and shiny, and the worst of any sort of like obvious corrosion on the surface is gone. So all in all, I'm really pleased with the way the main like show pieces turned out. These headlight buckets really cleaned up very nicely. Again, there's a little bit of pitting here and there, but unless you get up close and are like analyzing it like you're at a car show or something, you're never going to notice it. From 5 feet away, it's going to look really great. So like me, I'm a 5-footer. My car can be a 5-footer too, and I'm good with it. So thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you did find this useful. I found it a lot of fun. I found it a little bit weird to be shooting on my own and working in the shop by myself. Some of my behavior may have been slightly out of the ordinary, but I hope you found it entertaining if nothing else, and look forward to the next episode where I'm going to attempt to repair that dash pad that my friend Joseph from the Atlanta area shipped up here. It's got a huge crack down the middle of it, so I've been doing some research on how to repair that pad, and then I'll have to make a decision about whether I fit up that plastic cover on it or whether I endeavor to wrap it myself. So stay tuned for more of Dave doing things on the Celica that he never planned to do while we wait for paint. Is a Supra a BMW? I mean, that's a question for the ages, isn't it? You should be able to tell me, Jackie, you own one. What do you think? Does it matter? It's fast. You set a record at Coda. What are you worried about? Don't let the trolls get in your head, man. Don't let the trolls get in your head. Come on, youngster. Get your game together here.